All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Healthy Living Livestream. My name is Alexander Raskovich. I'm a team member from Andrew Kaufman's company and show. And we're here to talk about everything regarding hygiene and beauty products today. Are they indeed a health innovation or are they a toxic trap? Now, let me briefly introduce the man of the hour, Andrew Kaufman. Are you there?
Yes. Hi, Alexander. I'm excited about this new Healthy Living live stream, and I think we're going to have some really nice information for the folks today. So we're going to talk about personal hygiene products, and it's really an interesting story of how these have come into existence in our modern culture. But many of these things didn't really exist in the lives of human beings before the modern era of consumerism.
Yeah,
So, what do
absolutely.
you?
That's the rationale behind it. Obviously, like one thing that we're going to talk about briefly as well is shampoo, because that's where it started for me. Though, was well, when you tried when you came to our team meeting like 9 months ago, and you said like, "Hey, I just started, I just threw out my shampoo, and I'm doing the no shampoo thing." And he gave the rationale behind it, like shampoos don't exist in nature. And I was like, wow, I never heard of that. But the rationale was already like, it doesn't exist in nature. So why you already catch yourself on the spot, like you're doing something because so many people are doing that. Just to give a bit of a background there, Andy. I mean, I've tried everything, like the medical grade conditioners and like all kinds of natural shampoos, and my hair was always like shriveled up and very dry, and I just couldn't do anything to fix it. And as soon as I did this, like 9 months ago, at the time where you started doing this, my hair's never been better. And I think you
Yeah,
have
well,
similar results, right,
yeah,
as well.
absolutely, absolutely. And so it's been since I think May of 23 was the last time I used shampoo, and I initially learned about this from Sam Bailey. So and Mark, but Sam put out the video on it, even though Mark did it first, and I was really intrigued because she kind of explained what I already knew, is that we essentially become dependent on shampoo and conditioner. And this happens for a couple of different reasons. One thing is when we use shampoo, what happens is that it, dissolves essentially all of the natural oils put out by our scalp that coats and protects our hair, right? Sometimes known as sebum. And this brings about a reaction from the body that after all of that's wiped away, because it's supposed to be there, it serves several functions, and the body then has to put it out more. And this kind of back and forth, right, gets into a cycle where you shampoo and then the body overproduces sebum. So you have like greasy and oily hair in a very short time after shampooing, and the only way to fix it is to shampoo again. So it sort of leads to this dependency, right? And then conditioner is a different thing. And I think especially women with long hair and certain hair types that are kind of difficult to style or tend to knot up, or curly hairs can be very difficult to manage. And so they use tons of these products like conditioner to help make it more manageable. And if you want to bring up those couple of graphics, so I want to draw everyone's attention to an excellent app that you can download. And this is from the environmental working group, the Healthy Living app. And so I looked up a common shampoo and conditioner, and we're going to look at the safety ratings, because what this app does is that they study all the ingredients present in various consumer products. And they're also the group, by the way, that puts out the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 for organic fruits and vegetables. But they rate these apps and give them a safety score, these products, hygiene products, based on their ingredients and the safety profile of the ingredients. And they have actually a green category that there's no warnings, which I try to use that for certain types of hygiene products that my family demands. But when I looked up this common shampoo brand, and this is a Tresemme shampoo, which is something that was, when I was a teenager, it was in the salons. And now you can buy it, in the grocery store and the drugstore. And if we look at the shampoo, we find that there is a big red dot there, warnings for allergies and immunogenicity. In other words, the chemicals, especially the fragrance in the shampoo, is poisonous to us. So our immune system has to respond to it. And sometimes we can even have the symptoms of that response that we develop a sensitivity to it, or allergic type reactions. And I think it could even make us prone to developing other types of allergies and be sensitive to other things besides what's in the shampoo itself. And then if we look at, and also, by the way, the fragrance doesn't just include things that smell good. It also includes, I believe it's hydrogen phthalate, which is a dispersant. So it helps spread, it's another chemical, but it helps spread the fragrance out. And that itself has some significant toxicity and is one of the reasons for the red rating. And then if we look at the conditioner, we find that it's even more toxic, right? And has this compound here that's hard to pronounce, benzene chloride. And it also has sodium benzoate, which is a preservative, but also an oxidant and free radical generator. So we can see that, these products appeal to our sense of, beauty and wanting to look good and have a nice hairstyle. And many of the modern hairstyles can be sort of not necessarily suited to our hair. So we want to use different products to make our hair go into those styles. But there is a cost that we can become dependent on the shampoo. And then, of course, we're exposed to these toxic substances. And, let's remember that the skin is a barrier. However, it is a penetrable barrier. And many things that we put on our skin do get absorbed into our body. And the scalp is particularly sensitive to that because it has a very high density of blood vessels there that could take up whatever is slathered on our scalp.
Right. So let's just move on to some questions now. How did marketing of hygiene actually start?
Well, this is really fascinating, and I think we should look at Edward Bernays, right, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, interestingly, who is known, as the father of public relations, but really is the father of propaganda. And all of that really led to our consumerist culture. And it was probably purposely developed, and Bernays was extremely successful in his life and leaves a legacy of this entire field. And there was an issue that the Dixie Company wanted to, use paper products because they were disposable as a business model to sell things, right? Because anything that's disposable, you have to keep buying more of it. So it's sort of like the subscription business model, which we see with software today. For example, you can't own a piece of software, you can only subscribe to it. And that means you have to keep paying, forever, even though it's not really an ongoing service, so to speak. So there was the Dixie cup was the product that they were trying to promote, right? A disposable drinking cup. And there used to be a tradition in the United States in the workplace where there was the, quote unquote, community cup. So it was usually a metal cup that was like chained to a faucet or a fountain that anyone at work who was thirsty would go over there, fill up the cup and take a drink. And so how do we, when you have that reusable cup, you don't need to buy more cups all the time, right? So how is Dixie going to break into that market? And Bernays came up with the brilliant idea to put out the claim or a rumor or information, right? Propaganda, really, that if you share cups, you can get sick. Now, of course, if this were really true, people in the workplace would have figured this out because they would have, all gotten sick after someone who was sick drank from the cup, and they would have somebody at some point would have picked that up because this happened on a large scale. But this rumor was put in, and that was how they were able to start selling these disposable cups that you could use it and no one else would drink from it. And it was successful. And we can see in our modern consumer culture that we have many, many, many disposable items, right, which all really kind of stem from that root.
Right. And do they use these marketing? Do they use marketing in general to claim these products are healthy?
Absolutely. So, they really have continued from that example of using germ theory and contagion, right, and germs causing disease, which is, as we know from our other research, that is a completely false notion and a false claim. But this over and over again is used as the reasoning, right? Everything is blamed on microorganisms. So many of these products have germicidal components, right, that are said to improve your health, right? Especially cleaning products, for example, but many of them that are for your skin, right? We've all seen the hand sanitizer, for example, now that has become kind of a staple of hygiene in our culture. But there are many, many other examples like this. And in fact, we're going to, I think, talk a little bit about armpit sweat. So we can certainly get into it there.
Right.
And with toothpaste, the other topic that we were going
Right.
to bring.
Before we go there, Andy, is it possible that these things can be addictive, like shampoo and conditioner and all kinds of things?
Well, absolutely. The way that I described before, for example, with the shampoo and the oily hair happening and kind of making you dependent to go and shampoo again, we can see that pattern with other products as well, and how the body reacts to it and simply wants more and more. And then there's also the sort of psychological addiction, right? For example, we can come to think of our own natural body smells as abnormal or disgusting and not feel right unless we, have artificial fragrances on us, as an example.
Right. And speaking of toothpaste, because this has been like a new kind of thing for me as well. Like, obviously, I've been using like a natural, because we've all most people who are privy to your work and have been privy to many other people have actually been awakened to these type of subjects. They know that you should avoid fluoride in toothpaste and all these kinds of chemicals in modern type of toothpaste. But and people look for alternatives like these natural fluoride free type of toothpastes. But what are your thoughts on those natural type of toothpastes?
Well, let me first say that there's no proven benefit to using toothpaste, that it's really the mechanical agitation that gets your teeth clean. So that's important to know. So you don't need to use any kind of toothpaste at all. Now, of course, we grow up, right, becoming accustomed to it. And, it's two things really. It's the taste and the foaming action. So we definitely know, as you pointed out, right, that the fluoride is harmful and neurotoxic, right? Even the CDC has put out a warning not to use fluoridated water for baby formula because it's toxic to the baby's nervous system, right? Even though, of course, they put it in the drinking water and is shown to diminish IQ. But there are many other things. For example, triclosan is also a germicidal agent that is toxic. We have sodium lauryl sulfate, etc. But I want to draw your attention that even a so-called natural toothpaste, right, or one that has fewer of these synthetic chemicals, the foaming agent. So if it foams up, right, like, which is part of the toothpaste experience that people enjoy, that the chemicals that make it foam up often are harmful. So there's really not, now you can look on the Environmental Working Group app that we talked about, Healthy Living, and there are just a couple of toothpastes that are, declared by them to be safe. So you could certainly try those. And I have one of those that my kids love, and and use because they don't appreciate the alternatives. But generally speaking, I personally just use water. But there are a couple of natural things that are good to use. And one of them is activated charcoal, and that can help whiten your teeth. And this could be, mixed up with a little bit of water to make a slurry. You could just dip a wet toothbrush in the powder, or you can mix it with like a carrier oil, like coconut oil, and that will help dissolve some toxins out of your mouth as well, the oil. So depending on, how well you tolerate it in your mouth, but most people do pretty well. And there's also something called Ipsab powder, which is a mixture of salt and a type of tree bark that is abrasive, and probably some of the other absorbent minerals like bentonite clay or zeolite also could be, effective at whitening or stain removal. And then, of course, there's just the scraping or mechanical agitation that you get from a dental hygienist, or you can buy tools and mirrors and do this at home yourself. They, of course, have these ultrasound sandblasting devices that also will get the calculus, or which is another word for tartar, and stains off your teeth. And then, of course, flossing or using a water pick or some device, to get between teeth and along the gum line. Those are what's really important for oral hygiene.
Right. Okay. That's I've been using that, by the way, for just a few days, like bentonite clay with some coconut oil and some water, and it's like it feels so amazing compared to the natural toothpaste that I was using, and it just feels so much more soothing, and it's my teeth are actually a lot more, it's more enjoyable for the teeth. To say the least. And but yeah, like things that you said, just simple water could be an even better alternative than putting chemicals in your mouth. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, talking about deodorants now, do these? One thing that you've mentioned in the past as well, with regards to deodorants, is the potential to block out the body's natural cleansing mechanism. Is this true?
Yeah, well, I think so it's important to talk a little bit about sweat and what sweat does. So, and actually, maybe you can bring up that diagram, Alexander. So we know about the thermal regulation properties of sweat, right? That it keeps you cool. But what we may not also know is that sweat is a primary way that your body gets rid of unwanted things. And you really can look at the sweat glands as being sort of like a third kidney on your skin, and that there are other cells in your skin that actually can undergo the functioning of or carry out the functioning of the liver in terms of the phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification pathways. So your skin can put out a lot of secretions. And this diagram, it seems a little small, but this is from an article in Science, the journal, where they're trying to develop a device to measure chemicals in sweat for diagnostic purposes. But they outline here that all these different types of chemicals have been detected in sweat. So we're talking about, metabolic end products, right, of our own normal metabolism and biochemistry, but also pharmaceuticals, drugs that people abuse, right? And quite a large variety of them. Exogenous chemicals from industry like agriculture and other environmental uses, as well as heavy metals. And there are studies that have found all these different substances. And it seems that there's a wide variety of chemical properties that can be secreted into the sweat. So polar and nonpolar substances, acidic and basic, although basic substances seem to be preferred because the sweat is less acidic than the blood. So really the sweat is a major detox function, or in the skin, a major detox organ of the body. So now when we look at the idea of antiperspirants, right, because this is really the main problem. You have, deodorants, which just provide a fragrance to cover up, your body's fragrance. and antiperspirants, which turn off the sweating. Now, before I talk about the danger of that, I just want to mention like why it is that some people's armpit sweat smells pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
And if you look at the mainstream explanation, it's sort of half correct, because what they say is that there are different bacteria that live on those sweat glands. There are special ones in your armpit called apocrine glands, and that depending on the species of the bacteria, that some of their excretions are particularly noxious in terms of smell. But what they don't say is why you would have different types of bacteria growing in your armpits, because the body, supplies whatever is the appropriate bacterial form that you need for a particular function. So when you're putting out certain types of toxins in that sweat based on the level of toxicity in your body, if it's particularly noxious or the levels are high, then the bacteria that break that down in the sweat are going to create more noxious and smelly waste products. And the species are going to be more, resilient to the toxins that are coming out in the sweat. So essentially, the more toxic your body is, in general, the stinkier your armpit sweat would be. So if you really want to reverse it, you have to look at what's inside your body and your overall health status, and not blame, the innocent bacteria who are just really trying to clean up and recycle the mess. So now when we have this function, right, and our body's able to remove these noxious chemicals through our sweat, what happens when we use an antiperspirant? So I'm not even going to consider, the toxicity of the antiperspirant itself, right? Like the aluminum, for example. But just the fact of turning off the sweat means that our bodies then have to keep those toxins inside and do something else with them. And this could be very dangerous, because what if they decide to put them in a vital organ, right? Or they could, of course, put them in belly fat and increase our belly fat. So there's a lot of negative things that can occur when we shut off any of the body's natural cleansing processes.
And also to substantiate what you're saying, Andy, when I just, started cleaning up my diet, before, I was not being that rigorous with, the type of diet that you endorse, like raw foods, whole foods, organic foods. Your armpits are going to be it's gonna stink a lot, and it's really, the type of things that your body's trying to excrete. But as I, cleaned up my diet, I don't. It's hardly even noticeable.
Yeah,
and that's just.
There's definitely a change. I experienced the same thing once I learned about cleansing and detoxification, and then, for me, the first major thing I did was my turpentine protocol. And ever since then, yeah, it's been a different experience. Even my kids noticed it. They're like, "Dad, your armpits never stink."
But even though, like, why would you want to smell synthetic? After you've done all the cleansing and you've done you do like all kinds of fasting, and you do like a cleaning protocol. Like you have many on your web shop, which are amazing, by the way. But after you do some general cleansing and, clean up your body, you're going to be very sensitive to these types of synthetic odors and synthetic fragrances. And like, you're going to appreciate the natural smell, like a natural human smell, rather than like some, bomb of chemicals.
Right. Alexander, this is you bring up a very important principle, because I've experienced this in a couple of different realms, right, including with food. Is that once you really clean up your lifestyle in a certain area, and then you try to go back to some of the things you used to use or used to eat, that you notice now how they affect your body and how your body doesn't want them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
the same thing is going to be true. Like I used to really like, perfume and cologne when I was, a teenager and a young man, because I was surrounded by that in my, family and friends culture. But then, later on, when I got away from that, anytime I smell someone who's heavily perfumed, it's, like noxious experience, totally different, you know,
Oh
from
yeah. Oh
what it
yeah.
was like back then.
Absolutely. I go to the gym and they have all kinds of deodorants throughout the entire room, and you just can't. You just want to get out of there as fast as possible. You know, it's just everywhere. It's just so ubiquitous. Now, do you have any action steps that people can take to start implementing some of these ideas into their life right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to give a couple of simple steps that people can use. And so I will list these three, and then perhaps we have time for a few questions.
Absolutely.
So, number one is start reading labels and getting familiar with some of these ingredients. At least know which are the most harmful things to look out for. And of course, this is no easy task because some of these chemicals have names that are impossible to pronounce or even difficult just to read many times. So do your best, but you know, sometimes just seeing the names of these things is enough to say, you know, maybe I should reconsider using this product. Secondly, I recommend that everyone go to the Environmental Working Group, EWG, and download the Healthy Living app, because that's an excellent source of information. And it tells you what you would find on the labels, but it tells you more information about each of those ingredients. And of course, you can find things, even makeup, Alexander, you can find in there that is pretty safe. So I know that that's a difficult one for the ladies in our audience. And then number three, I challenge you to identify one toxic hygiene product that you have been using on a routine basis and to remove that from the rotation. And this may be a difficult decision because of some of the things we mentioned, right? How we can kind of get hooked on these things and our self-image can be dependent on them. But I am confident that you can find something that you can remove in order to mitigate the damage and improve your health.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was great. Let's go to some questions from Facebook. Oh, let me see briefly.
I think we probably have questions on all of the platforms.
Yeah, there was a few very good ones on Facebook. I can't seem to find them there anymore. But somebody was asking K Lamb, I believe, what about moisturizers?
Yeah, so of course, moisturizers is a similar issue, but there's good news. So a good rule of thumb is that if it's safe to eat, it's safe to put on your skin. So I think certainly, you know, one option is coconut oil, organic virgin coconut oil. That can be a little bit difficult sometimes, and it does have a strong odor, so it may not be right for you. But almond oil and jojoba oil are both good options. Now, in terms of like a more lotiony substance, so I found a local supplier who makes an excellent moisturizer. It's called Syracuse Soap Works. They do ship, but I don't know how many people are going to want to order from there. You could probably find other manufacturers, and it just simply has a few ingredients: almond oil, beeswax, water, borax, and an essential oil for fragrance in a very small amount. So, you know, those are some very safe ingredients to put on your skin. You might even be able to, you know, make some of these recipes yourself. You do have to, you know, like melt the wax and mix it with water to make the emulsion. It's a little bit tricky, but it could definitely be done. Or you can hopefully, you know, find an excellent product like that, or just use almond oil or jojoba oil or coconut oil. Those are all safe.
Absolutely. I'm trying to find the other questions beneath one of our posts, but yeah, and Instagram is going a little bit is delayed a little bit, so I won't. Let me see.
Well, someone asked, Mindy asks, if you don't use shampoo and conditioner, what do you use? Well, I think it depends a little bit on your hair and such, because there are some different options. For example, there is a type of clay, and I don't remember the name now, but it's similar to bentonite clay. And perhaps bentonite clay is definitely good at cleaning the hair. And that's one of the things that I used on my hair and scalp to help me regrow my hair, actually. And perhaps we'll do another live on that topic. But there's another kind of powder that comes from North Africa. A clay that you can find is one option. But what I do actually is I use baking soda followed by apple cider vinegar. And I only do this about once to twice a week. The other times I just use water. And so when my hair gets a bit greasy and starts to look stringy, that's when I use it. And it's just, you take 1 tablespoon of baking soda, and I use the natural kind that's harvested, in a mine, like from Bob's Red Mill, but you could even use the synthetic. So 1 tablespoon in like a pint of water. So I have like a little metal cup that I keep in the shower for this. Pour half of it over your head, over the hair, and then just massage the scalp, rinse it off, and do the same thing with the other half. And then put 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in the cup, fill it up with water, and do the same exact thing. You don't need to scrub as much with the vinegar because the vinegar is really just neutralizing the baking soda, and so it can be rinsed out. The baking soda is doing all the work, and it's absorbing a lot of things, helping to pH balance and do a little exfoliation. So your hair is going to feel amazing after. So there's an adjustment period. When you first stop using shampoo, your hair is going to be really greasy for a while. So you can kind of like taper off the shampoo, start to do it less frequently, or you can use the baking soda and vinegar on a daily basis for a couple of weeks until your scalp starts to normalize back to where it was. And then you can space the baking soda out less frequently. But what you'll notice is that over time, your hair just starts to get, thicker and healthier and softer and lush doing this without the sort of drying it out and then having it become greasy and drying it out and greasy again. It maintains the protective layer. And to help support that, you can brush it with a Boris bristle brush, where you start at the scalp and work out to the end of the hair. And that helps spread the secretions from the scalp over the hair follicle to further protect it and keep it healthy.
Absolutely. Now, then we'll do just one more from Stephanie Daly. Can things that are absorbed, excuse me, can things that are absorbed into the scalp also spread throughout the body via the bloodstream or the lymphatic system?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I think happens is that once any chemical gets into your body, right, and it could be absorbed through the skin, that's what we're talking about, but even by other means, is that it will, either be met at that local area by the immune system, or it will make it into the blood where it will be picked up by the immune system. So, for example, it's been shown with the aluminum in vaccines that right at the injection site, the immune system will form a granuloma to wall off the aluminum and keep it sequestered there so it doesn't get into the other parts of the body. But later on, some subsequent event might cause your immune system to relocate it, like a trauma, for example. And that you can read more about that in Forrest Moretti's book, Crooked, actually, where he meticulously goes through all that research. So in other words, it kind of depends on what your immune system does. So could it end up in a lymph node or in the lymphatics? Absolutely. Could it end up in the bloodstream and be relocated to a remote part of your body? Yes. Could it be, sent directly to the liver if you're in really good health and have good detox functioning and then just excreted? Absolutely. And in fact, that's what we would prefer if we get, we can reduce our exposure to these things, right, by making good choices. However, that doesn't mean that we're not going to be exposed to these things anyway, right, just at lower levels, because there are many types of exposure that we simply, have little to no control over. So, but these makes a huge difference, because if we, stop using some of these products, the amount of these poisons that we're exposed to will just go way down.
Absolutely, Andy. That was amazing. And yeah, somebody did ask in the chat about was it Montmorillon Light clay? I can hardly pronounce it, but what kind of clay is it that you're referring to?
Yeah, it is. I like the calcium bentonite clay of the Montmorillonite variety.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's the one I ordered as well, Andy. So thank you so much for that.
Well, you asked me which one to order, so thanks for following my my advice, Alexander.
Yeah, and it's great. It's absolutely amazing, and yeah, it's and also make sure to get the food grade as well, right, Andy?
Yes, that's right, because they use this for industrial applications sometimes, like to clean up spills and things like that. And sometimes, because this is, an element, a mineral mined out of the earth, it can sometimes have heavy metals or other contaminants. So if you buy food grade, then it's guaranteed to be free of any of those harmful things. And then it will have the, most ability to absorb those bad things out of your body, which is what we're using it for.
Absolutely. Now, one more thing, like we're going to do these things, these short little interactions with each other every week, and we're going to answer your questions live. Unfortunately, Rumble didn't work for some reason. I had it set up like before, like yesterday. I had the Rumble link set up for the live stream, but unfortunately, for some reason, it didn't connect today. So we'll make sure to compensate for that right after.
Well, there's always some kinks when you start a new thing, but I think please tell your friends, because we're going to be here every Wednesday at noon. We overshot a little bit on the presentation today. We wanted to have a little more time for questions, so we're going to improve on that, and I'll talk less next time, and we'll take more questions. But let me just also remind everyone that if you go to the link tree right there on my profile, you can find the quiz. What's it called? The
Your Path to Freedom quiz.
Yes, your Path to Freedom quiz. Sorry. And it's fun, and it will give you a good little assessment of where you're at and what barriers might be holding you back from realizing your full freedom and ability to, embody the truth, which is really what my mission is, to educate you about and to encourage people to live completely in the truth. So please check that out and the other links to see about all the resources we have to offer. And we enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at noon Eastern.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye now.